I already have my measurement on ground. As you are seeing on the screen, these are the measurements that I'm going to be using to create this bodice block. If you don't know how to take measurement, please, there's already a video on my channel that is completely for measurement. Please go check it out. The measurement video will help you a great deal when drafting your block. It's very simple and you will understand it very fast. Number one, the start line. I normally use 1 inch for my start line. The width of this ruler is already 1 inch. So I'm going to draft it now. I'm going to draw a straight line here. That will serve as our center front. We're going to be working with 2 measurements today. One, the vertical measurement, that's the measurement coming from up straight down. While the horizontal measurement going across. We're going to be using inches today, but I will convert it in centimeters. For those that are used to centimeters, I'll have both. Number 2, the vertical bust line. My vertical bust line is 9.5 inches. I'm going to put my tape at this start line, which also is the shoulder line. Then I'm going to mark 9.5. Number 3, the full length of the bodice. The full length of the bodice is 16 inches. So from the start line down, I'm going to mark 16. I'm going to bring the tape to almost the end of the block card and mark the same to enable me get accurate horizontal lines. And I'm going to roll across, label the lines so that we know which is which as we go further. Shoulder line, bust line, waistline, center front. Number 4, the neck circumference. My neck circumference is 15 inches. And I'll divide the 15 inches by 2. When I divide it by 2, I'll have 7.5 inches. And that 7.5 inches is what I'm going to use to create the back and the front. Let's start with the front. To get the basic neck line, I'm going to use the 3x3 method, turtleneck. From that turtleneck, that's where you get your different styles of neck that you want to create later. But the basic, you can get it by 3x3, or if the neck is bigger, you can get it 3x4. So I'm going to use 3x3 to get this neck line. So at the shoulder line, I'll measure 3 inches. That will be the width. Find the depth of the neck. I'll measure 3 inches at the center front line here. Then I'm going to connect this point to this point with a French curve. Number 5, the shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 15 inches. When I divide 15 inches by 2, I'll have 7.5. And that 7.5, I'm going to mark it at this start line. Mark it here. Number 7, shoulder slope. This 7.5 point here on the shoulder line, I'm going to slope it by 1.5 inches. Why? Because our shoulder is not entirely straight. It's on the slope. So you can slope it with 1 inch. It depends on how high or low your shoulder is. And I'm going to connect this point to this point. Number 8, armhole circumference. My armhole circumference is 16. When I divide 16 by 2, I will have 8 inches. And that 8 inches, I'm going to add half an inch for ease allowance. Then that will be 8.5 inches. But if I want to mark that 8.5 inches here, look at where 8.5 is. It will end at the bust line. Use that 8.5 to draft the armhole is going to be bigger. What you do, the formula that I use, that 8.5, I'm going to reduce it by 1.5. When I reduce it by 1.5, I'll have 7. With that 7, I'll be able to get the 17 inches that I need, the back and the front. My point that I'm trying to make, if your slope is 1.5, whatever your measurement is, reduce it by 1.5. If your slope is 1 inch, whatever your measurement is, you remove 1 inch. So the point of 7 is here. I don't use a straight line to draw my armhole. Armhole is not halfway straight, then halfway curve. Armhole, both back and front, is always on the curve. Before I remove this ruler, I'm going to mark the midpoint of 7, 3.5 inches. So I'll mark it 3.5 inches, which is the center here. Look at it here. That is the midpoint. Then this midpoint, I'm going to step it back by 3/4 of an inch. Then I'm going to rule a straight line across this point here. And this will serve as our upper bust line. Upper bust line. Well, I'm going to come back here to finish this up later. Number 8, bust circumference. My bust circumference is 36 inches. When I divide 36 inches by 4, I'll have 9. And that 9, this is the 9. And this 9, I'm going to add 1/2 inch for ease allowance. Yes. I'll mark 9.5 here. I'll go to the upper bust and mark the same thing. So now I'm going to connect this point to this inner point, from this point to this point. I don't need a straight line. I'll work with points. This point is the one that is going to guide me. Number 9, waist circumference. My waist circumference is 30 inches. When I divide 30 inches by 4, I'll have 7.5, and this is the 7.5. And I'm going to add 1 inch for the dart that is going to come to the center later. That will be 8.5 inches. Then I'm going to add 1/2 inch for ease allowance. Then that will be 9 inches. And I'm going to mark 9 inches. Number 10, the center dart. I'm going to create the center dart by the nipple to nipple measurement. My nipple to nipple measurement is 7. When I divide 7 by 2, I'll have 3.5 inches. That 3.5 inches, I'm going to measure it at the bust line here. Here. Then I'm going to come to this waistline and also mark 3.5 inches here. I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on this side, 1/2 inch on the other side to form my dart. Like this. I'm going to connect this point to this point. And before I connect both points, I'm going to reduce the line by 2 inches. I reduce it by 1 inch. You can reduce it by 1.5 inches. You can reduce it by 2 inches. I don't want my dart to be too close to the nipple point, so I'm going to reduce it by 2 inches. Then I'm going to draw my line up to that point. Then I connect this point to this point to this point with a French curve, not with a straight ruler. I'm going to connect this point to this point to this point. I'll be using a pencil in case I want to do some amendment later so that it will be easy for me to erase. Use a French curve, or you can maneuver it, curve with your hand. Number 11, the side dart. From this point, I'm going to mark 3 inches down along this line here. Like this. You can use 2.5, you can use 2 inches. It doesn't really matter. But I'm going to mark 3 inches here. I'm going to measure 1/2 inch here, 1/2 inch here to form the dart. From this apex point here, I'm going to be drawing a straight line to meet the center line here. Before I draw the line, I'm going to reduce the line by 2 inches. Then this is 1 inch, 2 inches. Then I'll draw the line from this point. Then I'll connect this point to this point to this point. I'm going to put a little triangle at the top here. Why? So that we don't miss any fabric around this area when we want to take our dart in. I'll do the same here too. To do that, you extend the center line with 1/2 inch. Like that. Connect this point to this point to this point. Do the same here too. I finished drafting the front block. I'm going to cut it out and measure the armhole to see how many we have. For the front armhole, we have 8 3/4 inches. Now I'm going to create the back block. Number 1, start line. I normally use 1 inch for my start line. The width of this ruler is already 1 inch, so I'm going to rule 1 inch here. Number 2, the zip allowance line. I'm going to use 1 inch for the zip allowance line. You can use 1.5, it doesn't really matter. Number 3, the bust vertical measurement. My bust vertical measurement is 9.5 inches. So at the start line, I'm going to mark down 9.5 inches. Number 4, the full length of the back bodies. The full length of the back bodies is going to be 15, while the front is 16 because of the 1 inch for the dart. I'm going to measure 15 inches from the start line down. I'll measure 15. I'm going to bring this tape to almost the end of the block card, why to enable me get accurate horizontal lines. I'm going to rule across and label the lines so we know which is which as we go further. This is the shoulder line, bust line, waistline, center back. This space is also for zip allowance. Number 5, neck circumference. The front neckline is deeper than the back line because the neck is actually shooting out in the front, not at the back. It's kind of a little bit shallow at the back. For that, I'm going to measure 1 inch at the center back. Then I'm going to measure 3 at the start line. Then with a French cover, connect this point to this point. Number 6, shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 15. When I divide 15 by 2, I will have 7.5. So I'm going to mark that 7.5 at the start line. Number 7, shoulder slope. I'm going to use the same slope measurement like the one I did with the front. I'm going to use 1.5 inches like I did in the front. I'm going to connect this point to this point. Number 8, armhole circumference. My armhole circumference is 16. When I divide 16 by 2, I'll have 8 inches. So that 8 inches, I'm going to add half an inch for ease allowance. That will be 8.5 inches. This is the 8.5 inches, exactly at the bust line. But I'm going to reduce it with 1.5 inches. Then I'm going to mark 7 inches. That's what I'm going to use to draft my armhole. Then before I remove the ruler, I'm going to find the midpoint of 7 inches. Midpoint of 7 inches, when you divide it by 2, that will be 3.5 inches. That's the 3.5 inches here at the middle. This center point now, I'm going to step it back by just half an inch. The front one, I step it back with 3/4 of an inch, but this one is just half an inch. That's the half an inch there. This point here, I'm going to rule a straight line across it. And that will now serve as our upper bust. Then I'm going to come to this area later. So let's get the measurement of the bust line first. Number 9, the bust circumference. My bust circumference is 36. When I divide 36 by 4, I'll have 9. And that 9, I'm going to add half an inch to it. That will be 9.5 inches. I will mark the same at the upper bust line. Then I'm going to connect this point to this inner point, this point to this point here. I don't use a straight line to create my armhole. Like I said, armhole is not halfway straight, halfway curve. No, armhole is always back and front on the curve. Number 10, waist circumference. My waist circumference is 30 inches. When I divide 30 inches by 4, I will have 7.5. That 7.5, I'm going to add 1 inch for the dart that is going to come to the center later. Then I will add half an inch for ease allowance. Altogether will be 9 inches. I'll mark the 9 inches at this waistline. Then I'll connect the sides together. Number 11, the center dart. I'm going to use the nipple to nipple measurement for the center dart. My nipple to nipple measurement is 7. When I divide 7 by 2, I'll have 3.5 inches. I'll mark it at the bust line and at the waistline also, and half an inch on both sides of the point. The front dart is 4 inches. I reduce it by 2 inches. While the back dart is going to be 4 inches, I will increase it by 2 inches. Altogether will be 6 inches. The back dart is longer because there is no bust at the back. So the excess that's going to be on top, we'll use that 2 inches to hold it in. No matter what measurement you are using, let your line go past the bust line at the back. Then I connect this point to this point to this point with a French curve. If you don't have a French curve, please carefully maneuver it with your hand. I'm going to put a little triangle at the bottom here, like I did with the front, to hold our dart properly. I finished drafting the back block. Now I'm going to trim it out. Now I want to measure the armhole to see how many we have. As you can see, we have 8 inches and 1/4. My armhole measurement back and front is 17 inches. The front of my armhole is 8 3/4 inches, while the back armhole is 8 1/4 inches. When you plus the two together, you will have 17 inches. So we've gotten exactly the right measurement for the armhole. My armhole method can be exact. It can be a little bit more than or a little bit less. It doesn't really matter. You are still on the right track. So try it out because it's actually working for me. If you use my method and it's not still working for you, maybe after using it, your armhole is still bigger by 1 inch or half an inch, all you need to do is to reduce the vertical measurement. Like my vertical measurement is 7 inches. That was what I used to create this armhole, and I got it right. Assuming I didn't get it right, all I need to do is to reduce it to 6.5. If it's still bigger, I will reduce it to 6 inches until I'm able to get it right. At least the gap between the normal bust line and your upper bust line is too big, at least 2 inches. From 2 inches to 1.5 inches, from 1.5 inches to 1 inch. Gap between your normal bust line and this. Provided it's not bigger than 2 inches, you're on the right track. I don't believe in that method of you tearing your armhole, trying to cut out the excess, then recreate it again. The simple way to solve the armhole problem is when you don't get it right, keep reducing the vertical measurement from this point to this point. I finished drafting the block. This is the front block and this is the back block. I think this is the end of this tutorial. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe if you've not done so. And if you are subscribing, please don't forget to click that notification bell. That bell is very important for notifications. And if you have any question whatsoever, please don't forget to leave it at the comment section below. I'll be more than glad to answer any of your questions to the best of my knowledge. And don't stop on this video. There are other videos on this channel lined up for you to come and watch. You will gain from them. Go and watch them. Thanks for watching. See you in my next video. God bless you.